The following opinions and quotations in no way represent Riverwest Radio and are the sole responsibility of the producer, guests, and callers. Riverwest Radio is not liable for any legal issues arising from the content of this program.
You're obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth. You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought out loud, that thought exists, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions, the Bible, poetry, essays of all kinds, all of it an opiate to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Yeah? Well, we're gonna have to do something about that. This is riverwestradio.com, community-supported radio, streaming live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm your host. My name is Michael Wordsworth, and welcome to Breaking Down the News, the show that presents the news highlights of the week, but with a twist. Breaking Down the News is more concerned in bringing you information that wasn't covered on the front pages. Headlines you don't want to miss, because not listening could be dangerous to your freedom, liberty, and health. And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. It is Friday, November 9th, 2012. I'm Michael Wordsworth, sitting in with Caitlin Redding.
Good afternoon, everybody, on this warming Friday.
Very dark, overcast day here, but hopefully Dan Lawsey's going to call in around 5 o'clock and give us, cheer us up a little bit over here.
Sure. And with any luck, maybe we'll hear from Mary from Ireland on their reaction to the Obama election win. If not today, though, maybe we can catch up to them next week.
It would be hopeful. Starting off, safe haven demand for gold has pushed prices higher on the COMEX. That, according to Kitco, December gold traded up $5.10 at $1,731 an ounce, and spot gold was quoted down $1.40 at $1,731 an ounce. The increase arrives as Obama plans to deliver a speech on the fiscal cliff later today. David Plouffe, a top Obama advisor, believes Obama's re-election is a mandate to raise taxes on the wealthy, thus ensuring a fight with Republican-controlled House of Representatives and its leader, Speaker John Bonehead, who said on Thursday he is steadfastly opposed to any increase in taxes. That might be good news for the rhetoric of Republicans to hear, but it ain't going to happen. People know what's coming. Dire economic news from the European Union is also driving gold higher. On Friday, the German finance ministry added to projections of a serious economic downturn in Europe by stating that in the months ahead, Germany's economy could noticeably weaken. On Thursday, the euro fell to a two-month low against the dollar following a move by the European Central Bank to artificially lower interest rates to 0.75%. In the United States, continued support for Federal Reserve monetary policy has also helped move gold prices higher. With Mr. Obama back, Mr. Bernanke is safe for the moment, and we should see continued stimulus. That's supportive for the gold market here. Frank Lesh, future analyst and broker at the Future Path Trading, told the Wall Street Journal. Analysts, however, believe $1,800 is a formidable barrier. On Thursday, Credit Suisse said that the political status quo is, quote, broadly positive for the price of gold, and declines below $1,600 are not likely. Kitco believes a bullish weekly high for gold signals further price increases in the weeks ahead. The gold bulls' next upside price breakout objective is to produce a close above solid chart resistance at $1,755 an ounce, and that's according to Jim Wyckoff. The premise of dishonest money is simple. Very smart and powerful people are robbing you of your wealth, freedom, and future. The system they've created to accomplish this is both ingenious and 100% legal. The average citizen, unaware of how the system works, cannot effectively fight this. If the premise of this book is simple, then its purpose is even simpler. Help the average citizen learn, quote, the system, so they can protect their wealth, freedom, and future. Stop the thieves before they steal everything. By the time of the end of this article, the average citizen will be familiar with these terms, will know who benefits, and more importantly, who pays. I'm Michael Wordsworth. Stay tuned. Got a lot of news for you today. You're listening to riverwestradio.com.
Experiments have shown that less than 1 minute after the viewer begins to watch television, the brain switches from beta-level consciousness, associated with active and logical thought, to alpha level, which is associated with passive acceptance and suggestibility. This is why advertisers spend billions of dollars a year on commercials, as well as product placement within TV shows. Political messages are implanted in fictional TV programs as the relaxed meditative state of the viewer is receptive to the programming.
You're listening to riverwestradio.com.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
This is Breaking Down the News, bringing you headlines that should have made the front pages. Streaming live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard. And to correct that, we are no longer on Monday, Wednesday, Friday live. We're only on Friday from 3:36, which is a long 2.5 hours. We got Caitlin here with some good news. I think it's good news, isn't it?
Well, it's good news, but they're already trying to make it extremely complicated. Some of you may have heard that with the elections, a number of propositions, referendums, et cetera, were, of course, on the ballot for many states, and it turns out that legalization of marijuana was passed by both Washington and Colorado.
Washington State now, is it recreational or medical?
Well, I believe it's medical. I have a follow-up article. I have two articles, one from the Natural News, one of our favorite sources, from their global.com, and I also have just a short one from the Boston Globe, which is just a little bit different, but this comes from Natural News blog, and they talk about marijuana to be legalized in Washington soon. This was, I believe, posted on Wednesday. No, posted on Monday. Surprising but a fact, marijuana is about to be sold legally in retail stores across the entire state of Washington, just like any other medicine or liquor, with just a heavily taxed price tag. And the reason that this policy is on the rolls, getting ready to be floored, is an effort to bring up a stop to drug crimes, which is growing cause for concern among the nation's leaders. The fact is that they have realized the positive effects of taking this drug, which has been a number of benefits as well, rather than just being a gateway drug to the lazy pothead drug syndrome, I guess. It may not be easy getting liquor at first, though. Let's take a look at the reasons which have made weed a sudden favorite among policymakers. For starters, it is said to have supposedly soothing effects on cancer patients and helps them in dealing with their sense of nausea while they are undertaking chemotherapy.
Oh, we can't have that. I'm sorry, Caitlin.
No, absolutely, that's fine. On a stricter note, the United States government must have realized that they punish people for money crimes far more than they punish those caught for violent crimes like rape. This is absurd, to say the least. Buying, smoking, or selling weed is considered a money crime in America because essentially you are taking from the government either by making money you don't pay taxes on, feeling good without their permission, or curing a so-called incurable disease. I think we had talked about this before, that eventually we saw the trend of states legalizing this because they're missing out on a lot of money to be made, and that's really the bottom line as this article is finally publicizing.
It's a strange situation because that is definitely true what you said. And on the flip side of this coin is also the business of private prisons and the fact that marijuana smokers and casual users are easy prey for the federal system that is actually essentially owned by the very same people that own the private prisons. And it's an easy target.
Well, let me follow up with this piece from the Boston Globe. And this also, too, is about the effects of legalizing medical marijuana. And they're saying voters' approval of medical use of marijuana on Tuesday is already prompting questions about the readiness of beleaguered state health regulators, local communities, and police to oversee retail outlets where the drug will be sold.
Oversee it.
Oh, yeah, here we go. The law, which won majorities in all but 2 Massachusetts communities, takes effect on January 1st. But some groups, including the Massachusetts Municipal Association, are calling on the legislature to delay it. Town officials must draft zoning rules stipulating where the distribution centers may be located or whether to allow them at all. And police departments are grappling with how to deal with a law that is in direct conflict with federal drug policy and their own training. There's no attempt to stop the ballot question in any way, said Geoff Beckwith, executive director of the municipal group, who would like to see a transition period until about mid-2013. It's just a real-world challenge of suddenly having something that's been illegal now being legal, and communities have to have time to update their ordinances. So this is the concern. I can continue just a little farther, and then I have to pay 99 cents to get the rest of the article. Isn't that just wonderful? But basically, I think that what they're saying is that they're just not sure that there isn't going to be dancing and joyous rebellion in the streets, and consequently they have to have time to figure out how to get extra police on the job. And
I'm not exactly sure. What do they need the extra police for?
well, they need extra time because they haven't decided where this is going to be allowed to be sold. So basically, they've kind of put the cart before the horse here, in which they're saying, okay, we're going to allow you to have this, but we haven't figured out how you're going to bring it and how you're going to sell it. Isn't that interesting?
And what do the police? I mean, like, are you gonna have armed police guards like at baseball games,
Well,
like standing there? I mean, nobody's gonna want to buy pot with the cops standing there. That's what we know.
But the problem is that
Psychological.
right, this law is in direct conflict with the other criminal laws on the books are, and that's what the police are saying, is that this is in conflict with what their training allows them to do, and it's in conflict with the federal drug policy. And this is the continuing issue here, and this has been the point all along. Just like the highway program is federally funded and states must adhere to whatever the federal government wants to put in place, like the legal drinking age is definitely tied to federal money and highway road repair. This is another place where the states are starting to differ from the federal government's policy. The states are trying to make this legal, and the federal government is trying to continue to keep it illegal.
We had a lot of raids in L.A., at least California did, that the feds did crack down, and that's been going on. It's kind of like, oh, it's legal here. States say it's okay, but then you got the feds coming in. Isn't it really largely a matter of the guys that bring in the drugs, the cocaine, the heroin, are at the very, very top? We don't know exactly who they are, but we're pretty sure that the corruption is rampant, and it ties all the way down from, I would guess, senators, judges.
Well, we know it's in our own CIA. We've seen the CIA come in before and set up cocaine dealing houses or families to go into Colombia and other places of this sort.
Oh, I wish I mean, you're speaking
Noriega.
Iran-Contra, which is, for most people, history. For us, it's just another memory of watching this thing slowly evolve. So, yeah, I mean, how many CIA planes have to crash filled with cocaine before
we say, hey, that's a CIA plane, exactly.
Well, every 47 seconds in America, somebody is arrested for marijuana. Over 50% of drug-related busts are tied into marijuana, which is to say that, look, this thing isn't it a Schedule I narcotic? It's some sort of, they've got it in the same categories as coke and heroin and opium.
Which actually I think makes it a Schedule II, I think.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, 1 is like the least, and 2, I think 1 is like cough medicine, and 2 is like federal felony now.
Okay.
So acid would be in 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But this is something that you and I have discussed, and that my point has always been, it's not an issue of whether the drug is good or not. It's a question of who's going to be able to make money off of it and how the government is going to figure out how to do it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, the states aren't waiting. The states are trying to get into this now because the feds really don't have their fingers in this pot quite yet.
And the guys who run the feds, like you said, this is a new market. I mean, in a very similar manner, It's the same reason why industrial hemp isn't allowed in this country. We import it from other countries, but God forbid that the little people on the lower rungs of society should be able to grow a field of it and benefit from it. And what we've got is a corporate takeover. I mean, there's many ways to describe this, but we have a global corporate takeover. They do not like competition. They want a monopoly, or at least an oligopoly at the best.
Right.
And where are we in all this? We're down on the street with the rest of these guys, kind of without a power. The only power we have is a political will, but we're divided into a left-right paradigm. I'd love if some callers called in today and just gave their input. What do you think of our new president? What do you think of the presidential election? I'd like to hear from Republicans and Democrats on both sides.
And I also have some interesting information that I pulled up from the White House's own blog, which is President Obama's kind of discussion with people about what he's trying to accomplish. So I also have that as well. But just to wrap up the marijuana discussion, this is the fight we're going to be watching. We're going to watch how the federal government tries to get into on the money, because obviously the states are looking at this as a opportunity to increase revenue. It just like liquor. Look at prohibition. Look at liquor stamps. It's this whole 9 yards.
Will we never
again.
learn? I mean, right, what happened in prohibition? Only the criminal elements backed by the highest brokers in America, the DA itself.
And we always had liquor. We always had alcohol. No matter where it was coming from, this country never did not have alcohol. People were making ginger beer in their basements right alongside of the root beer bottles. So, but it'll be interesting to watch how these communities determine how they're going to handle this. And I understand what they're saying. You obviously are not going to want these people to open up, for instance, the corner ma and pa convenience store. It would be difficult to see them starting to carry marijuana on the shelves. The little kids are coming in, picking up a loaf of bread for mom or whatever. So I can understand where there might be some issues that they want this,
well, right. I mean,
placed on a certain shelf or behind the counter.
Like alcohol. I mean, you have many of those convenience stores. They sell alcohol, and they also and usually it's stashed behind the counter, but
or someplace, yeah. And with the magazines and everything else, I guess just people have to get over marijuana because it's going to be there. It's going to be on the counter at some point.
Most people, I would think, the rest are probably indifferent or just ignorant, or they actually, a small percentage, still maintain a willful prejudice against this substance, marijuana, that it's never killed anyone in the history of mankind. Meanwhile, alcohol-related deaths due to car and overdose continue daily. I mean, and just the absurdity, the hypocrisy. I, for one, am sick of living in such hypocrisy, but I mean, I guess that's why we have politics, but the politics are there to keep us from going to war with each other.
Are they really? I think they're actually a cause of us going to war. You have a policy written in pen. But along with the insanity and hysteria, I don't know if you caught wind of this article. Again, this was also from the Boston Globe Metro page from November 9th. So this is current. But Canton students to be trained to counter shooters, and this was offered to...
counter shooters...
hold on to your pants.
Wait, what do you mean by counter? Like guys
Listen to
by?
this.
Okay, go ahead.
For years, the standard instructions to teachers and students if a Columbine-style attacker launched a rampage at their school was the same: lock down and hide. But now, in Canton and in a growing number of schools nationwide, police and school officials are training teachers, staff, and eventually even students in that some cases they should fight against armed attackers. School officials in Canton quietly adopted a program this year called ALICE, A-L-I-C-E, Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate, and began training school personnel at Canton High School and Blue Hills Regional Technical School in Canton. They are trained to make active decisions such as barricading classroom doors, coordinating on-the-spot evacuations, and if all else fails, throwing objects and using body weight to topple a shooter.
Okay, you're talking about like arming?
Well, now here, this is interesting. Now they're bringing this program called Alice into,
Alice.
to get people to say, yeah, okay, we're going to let you empower yourselves to handle this situation. But isn't it interesting that this is coming right parallel as concealed carry is starting to pass in more and more states? And teachers this is an issue that school boards are addressing. Are they going to allow their teachers with conceal and carry to have the guns locked in their desks in the school? And I know of teachers in my own children's schools are saying, I have a gun. I have a conceal and carry. It's not in the school, but they've told students that it's in their car in the parking lot. So what are we really saying? Are we really saying that at some point in time, if one of you guys is packing in the school, we're not going to go after you if you take somebody down and you shoot them and kill them? I mean, that's what it sounds like.
I'm convinced we'd kill each other with sticks and stones if we took every gun away from us on this planet. I mean, that's not the point. All I know is where there are no guns, where people have been outlawed to have good citizens, such as Chicago or even New York, what you create is these gun-free zones are just victimized areas that actual criminals love. I mean, you can walk in there with a knife and rob people because you don't even need a gun at that point.
And you don't need a gun made out of metal, so you can certainly get a weapon in through metal detectors. But I think it's interesting that, let me read a little bit more of this. But the fact is that the school officials in Canton and other places as well are adopting this program very quietly, kind of under the radar. So I'm not even sure how much the whole general public in an area knows about this, and the parents themselves. So this goes on to say, critics say you're teaching little kids how to fight. They say no. There are age-appropriate ways to go about this kind of training, says Canton Police Detective Chip Yeaton, a school resource officer and father of 4, who said he is committed to spreading the program. We're teaching them options. So far, the best level of training students have had to is go lock the doors and wait. And the school shootings continue to happen, and young people are dying, and we need to change this philosophy.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, actually. I mean, it's common sense because that's, of all the shootings, especially in schools, or any institution like on a college campus, like the Virginia Tech shooting, the first thing they do is they lock everybody in so that the killer can run around and kill them.
And this is basically what Grantino is saying here, and this is, Grantino is the superintendent of the Canton's public schools. He says, we want to make sure we are not putting kids in harm's way. This program teaches that countering an intruder is the last resort when there are no other options. It is about providing strategies in their toolbox. So, yeah, there we go.
Well, I
There we
mean,
go.
and for the pro-gun ban side, I'd like to impersonate one of their reactions. I'm scared. I'm scared of guns. I only accept police and paramilitary troops dressed in Darth Vader stormtrooper outfits to possess guns, and we shouldn't have them. Oh, I'm scared. That's our counter view opinion on that one.
Okay, well, we'll see how far we get along with that.
And we will. Can we take a short break here?
I think we should, because the next story I have is on chocolate, and I don't think we can segue into that.
Hey,
How do you segue into chocolate?
I got to get some coffee, and chocolate's not a bad idea. We'll be right back. You're listening to riverwestradio.com.
When you start talking about manipulating the environment, we have treaties that go back to the mid-'70s that forbid this, number one, as weapons of war.
So the perfection of weather modification took place, but it became apparent that using weather modification for wartime purposes was not acceptable to the United States government and other nations of the world. So therefore, the NMOD Treaty came into being and was signed by the United States government after passing Congress. The reason it was signed and implemented was because it would ban warfare, weather modification techniques and use during times of war.
Almost all of our treaties that we've signed, including the non-proliferation, counter-proliferation treaties, chemical treaties, the ones that were signed recently, last few years, back maybe a decade now, I guess time goes. But they had domestic exemptions, and so does the environmental treaty. Where you can do whatever you want in your own territorial boundaries. When you start manipulating weather and what part of a of the planet. It doesn't look on the ground and say, oh yeah, wait, this is the boundary of a political boundary. It fails to recognize those. So you start to talk about geophysics and manipulating the planet itself. Then it's a question of those kinds of exemptions shouldn't even be allowed.
Meteorology and the military have a very long history, as I said, and it goes into the strategic advantage that multiplies your traditional force, that is your armament, into using nature to your advantage as well.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
This is Breaking Down the News, bringing you headlines that should have made the front pages. Streaming live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard. And we're back. Caitlin?
Yes, we're back. Let's see. You said that coffee and chocolate, you said, went well. Let's read a little bit something about chocolate, because we're going to have a pretty serious program tonight. We have a lot of reflection on Obama by other countries and people in the United States. We're going to have an interview with Dan Lazzi. He's going to be calling us from the road as he makes his way to Springfield, Illinois. He's talking to a 21-year and over crowd tonight. I don't know the name of the establishment, but it's about at least a 4.5 hour drive away, so unless you leave pretty soon, you're not going to make it. But that's okay, because Dan's going to be here at the Port of Hamburg, which is across from the old St. Stephen's Church site, if you know where that is, on Howell Avenue, across from the airport. It's also right next door, just north of the new gas station that's there. So he'll be appearing there. I guess they have 5 bands going to be going on throughout the evening. We're thinking it starts about 5 or 6. Probably going to get a couple bands under our belts, and then Dan is expected to take the stage for a brief period of time. He'll probably be giving us some idea of things he might want to address, although he did state that he likes to let the mood of the day and the topics of the day influence what his own topics are. So we're expecting to talk to him, maybe get some pointers about things. Who knows? But we'll also be joining him at the Port of Hamburg tomorrow, Saturday, on, South Howell Avenue, I believe. And hopefully we'll be getting some interviews from people there as well that we can rebroadcast to you later. So wear a jacket, it's going to be chilly. This, again, from one of our favorite places, naturalnews.com. This was brought to us Thursday, November 8th by Caroline Wright. Divine Braid Food. Sharpen your thinking with chocolate. Most people don't need an excuse to eat chocolate. Its creamy texture and delicious taste are reason enough. Well, she's got me sold. Yet, here is another compelling reason to savor chocolate. It helps your brain work better. Flavonoids present within chocolate may be the key to this enhanced cognitive functioning, but we are not speaking of a Hershey bar here. Only high-quality, extra-dark varieties will improve brain function and sharpen the mind. So she's talking about non-milk chocolate varieties. Milk chocolate has a much higher degree of dairy and sugar than the quality dark chocolate, which has a much higher cocoa butter, cocoa fat ratio. The brain on chocolate, she continues. A study at the University Acquia in Italy established a connection between heightened cognitive ability and the consumption of chocolate, according to the research team head, Dr. Giovanni Battista Desideria. This study provides encouraging evidence that consuming chocolate flavonoids, a part of a calorie-controlled and nutritionally balanced diet, could improve cognitive function. Participants were instructed to consume a high, intermediate, or low-dose cocoa flavonoid beverage for 8 weeks. Those who drank the high and intermediate versions had improved working and verbal memory, task switching, and hand-eye coordination. I wonder if they have some for mouth. Researchers suspect that the brain-boosting qualities of cocoa flavonoid are due to an improvement of insulin sensitivity. A comparable study in the United Kingdom demonstrated the ability of flavonoid cocoa to strengthen brain function by increasing cerebral